The town's most influential citizens congregate in the sleek and sophisticated glass room, which has shimmering glass walls and soothing lighting. Serving plates that are so well placed that they might pass for being in a museum, waiters go between tables in immaculate white shirts. One of those waiters, 37-year-old Claire Hastings, has been working 12-hour shifts there for 6 consistent, albeit demanding years. Polite grins, and maintains her composure despite any haughtiness directed at her. It was now the standard for her. Nevertheless, a magical scene greeted her every night when her shift finished. Her 14-year-old daughter Ava was always sitting on a bench across the street with her violin case crossed and her little, silent, and intensely concentrated. Even though her violin was ancient and had some varnish wear down to the wood, it was more than just an instrument to her, it was a lifeline. Claire had trained at the Manhattan Conservatory and performed with promise, but dreams don't always come true. Claire had previously dreamed of a life full with music. All of that was halted by an unplanned pregnancy, family separation, and the disappearance of a mentor she had adored. When Ava was 8 years old, she discovered the old violin case hidden deep in a closet. She gave it to her mother without saying anything, and Claire stared at it for a long time before sitting next to her daughter and playing a simple lullaby. From that point on, the music flowed again, not from Claire but through Ava. She had never opened her violin case again after returning to her hometown. Just a mother's silent counsel and a memory heart. No books or teachings. Local teachers volunteered to support Ava and enroll her in contests after she demonstrated her ability to play Mozart and Tchaikovsky by ear by the time she aged 14. Claire consistently refused, saying, "It's not time yet," and Ava never fought. She performed for herself, her mother, and perhaps something more. She didn't pursue fame. On a fall evening, Claire's normal shift turned into an evening reservation, and everything changed. The VIP room had been rented by an affluent customer. Gregory Stanton, the wealthy founder of Stanton Equity Partners, was well known for his aggressive purchases, hunting excursions, and darkly comedic sense of humor. He visited Greenville twice a year, and always created an impression that made someone feel inferior. Stanton saw the youngster outside as Claire was serving wine. "Is that your daughter?" he inquired, a grin beginning to appear on his face. "Yes, sir," Claire said in a firm voice. "That violin she's playing makes his table sparkle," he laughed. Claire nibbled on her lip. He remarked, "Let's have a show." This very moment, $100 for a private performance if she performs, Ava had heard him. She took a step forward. When Claire attempted to stop her, Ava responded coolly, "I'll play." She started her case. The room became quiet. After a gentle, ambiguous opening note, the room was filled with a completely other sound. Ava played Meditation from Massenet's Face as her fingers moved across the strings, creating a tale that nobody had anticipated hearing. From recollection, many quit eating because of the subtlety, anguish, and power. Chefs looked out from the kitchen. Claire had taught Ava that piece, and she stood there with tears in her eyes. Furthermore, Ava was changing it rather than only playing it. The audience exploded in cheers as the last note faded, with the exception of one guy who gave a silent but deliberate clap. Following the concert, Thomas Riley, the producer and director of the esteemed Boston Academy of Musical Arts, stated to Claire, "We must talk about your daughter Stanton," who was clearly shaken and attempted to regain control. He said, "Who knew you had a prodigy under your roof?" "A pleasant surprise, I'll say." Claire nodded towards the curtain. In the meantime, Ava withdrew to her bench and put the violin aside. Riley carried on the discussion by explaining that the Academy provided complete scholarships for tuition, housing, meals, and unusual talents. "Ava has that kind of potential," he added. Stanton scoffed. "Yes, it's a charity case. Or maybe she would rather have a genuine client make their professional instrument solo debut." Claire's tone was calm but unambiguous in return for devotion. "We appreciate the offer and we'll discuss it. You and your daughter can't afford to refuse help. I'm not your enemy. I want to invest." Stanton added when he subsequently leaned in. Confidentially. He was gazed at by Claire. We are not for sale. Ava showed up next to her, but we were never. Claire sat at their tiny kitchen table that evening. Riley's laptop is shining with the Academy webpage. Do you think it's worth it? Said Ava as she entered. Even though I'm not, Claire remarked. I believe you're ready. Riley and Claire met the following day in the deserted restaurant, and, Claire said, he'd done his research. He was aware that Claire had previously studied music, knew her history. You passed on more than just skill to Ava, he stated. You passed on a soul. They discussed the expectations for logistical documentation. He was cautioned by Claire about Ava's kind nature. Riley nodded. She hears the truth and possesses more than skill. Stanton, meanwhile, was yelling commands to his aide while stewing in a hotel suite. Learn everything there is to know about Riley, the Academy's benefactors, then have me a counteroffer ready. The glassroom was ready for another show on Friday night. Ava returned, holding a violin. What's happening? Claire muttered. I simply feel compelled to be present. At 8:08 p.m., Ava said, it was crowded. Stanton arrived with his guests. He called Claire. Where's your little virtuoso? Will she be performing an encore? Ava moved forward. If you wish, I can play. Stanton applauded. Excellent. Let's play again. Ava played a piece of her own this time. Unorthodox, Raw Beautiful was a composition that was inspired by Beethoven but was wholly original. She wasn't performing for the audience, rather, she was announcing her presence. And when the last note lingered in the air, there was a startled hush. Then, thunderous applause. Riley came silently up. You have to go now. This isn't a recommendation, it's a vocation. Ava turned to see her mother, who gave a nod. Stanton later came up to Claire once again. She has now gained attention. Let's discuss management, real money, real stages. Let me assist you. He gave a card, but Claire declined, saying, she's already chosen. Ava slept well that night. The violin lay next to her, and the completed and signed scholarship paperwork was on the nightstand. Inside was a letter addressed to Ava Hastings, a gift that has to be nurtured. Silence arrived in the morning. Ava came in and sat next to Claire as she sipped coffee and looked through an old photo album. Is that you? She said, pointing to her photo of Claire wearing a music school uniform. Yes, Claire muttered. They viewed old pictures of Claire with a young guy playing a violin before everything happened. Your father, Claire whispered quietly. When I told him about you, he vanished. Ava clasped her mother's hand and said, You raised me, that's stronger than any music. No, sweetie, that is music, grinned Claire. Riley returned 2 days later with an escort and contracts. The following morning, they took off. Before they departed, Claire gave Ava a note saying, Open it on the plane. Claire made her debut appearance as a guest in the glassroom that evening. She grinned as she sat by the window and watched a teenager struggle through a piano piece. Stanton upstairs saw a video that a co-worker had sent him. Following an incredible restaurant performance, a teenage violinist registers with Boston Academy. He murmured, I don't want my name attached, and closed his laptop. Find me another person. Ava sat at the gate of the Albany airport with a little bag at her feet and her ancient violin. She opened the asterisk letter from her mother. If you're reading this, you're already headed for Agava. I'm trying not to cry while sipping my coffee. Although you appear tranquil, I am aware of your storm. I've never been stronger than you. Never compromise your integrity for praise, and keep in mind that I'm always here for you if you ever lose your note. Love with an asterisk. Mom started crying asterisks. She didn't eliminate them. The Boston Academy was situated in a historically significant structure with lofty ceilings, grand pianos, and an air of respect. The flatmate of Ava, Lily, a pianist from Canada, offered to do duets. The lessons were challenging. She practiced for 6 hours a day, sometimes sobbing, sometimes laughing, but always remembering, according to her tutor, Professor Vincent, who stated she lacked form but had spirit. This is what I really believe. Ava performed last in the winter performance 6 months later. She performed her own composition while wearing a black dress and a new violin that the Academy had given her. It started with a song her mother had played, developed into a symphony, and then she went back home. The crowd stood. Riley grinned when her asterisk was published in a music journal a week later. From the daughter of a waitress to the new voice. In music, Ava Hastings. The subtitle said, I learnt to hear asterisks from my first teacher, Claire, who worked as a waitress. Claire sobbed as she read it at a cafe. Not out of sorrow, but happiness, Greenville continued with elections, new structures, and new faces. Stanton ceased going to formally took a break from business. And Ava Hastings entered a new stage someplace, in Boston. She took one risk not because someone offered it to her. Sometimes all you need is one voice, one note, and one night. If you have that voice, utilize it. Sincerity always finds a listener, even if your violin is ancient and nobody is listening. And occasionally 3 minutes may help the world remember you.